You have to realize what are the difficulties to make the audience believe that this thing is true, that this thing is happening, that this is real, for them to be taken in. We did a production of The Time Machine where I adapted the novel for the stage. Victorian England, the guy who is kind of an adventurer and everything, and he's a tinkerer, and he meets every week with a group of men. One is a newspaper publisher, one is a doctor, they're professional men, and they meet and they talk about politics, like at his house. Usually they come over and eat, and he comes in one evening and tells them he has created a machine which he's gone back in time. Is what I'm talking about. You must have your mind. And he tells them this story about how he goes off into the future and has all this whole long adventure, and then he comes back and so forth and tells them. Well, they won't believe him. So the first thing he does when he's telling them it's possible to travel through time, before he made the big machine in which he sits, he made a little model. And he says, now watch this, and I'll show you. And he pushes the little lever on the model, and they're sitting there watching, and the model disappears. Now, in the story, it says that when he pushed it, suddenly a breeze blew through the room, and one of the candles blew out, and the machine was gone. So, we had a little machine sitting right there on the stage.
What type of machine?
It was just made up to look like the thing we used for the time machine, which we didn't have anything very good. We had to use something that we called the time machine, and the audience had to buy that was the time machine.
Did you build it, or did
you
take a common object?
No. What we did was we used somebody found on the street, and it came from the meatpacking district, this big cart that you move meat in, but you can also set the body of the cart up this way. So it had this underpinning of stuff, and then this cage, and you could sit in the cage. And this was a presentational style because we used a narrator talking to the audience. The other people didn't talk to the audience. Only the narrator could talk to the audience. But he spoke to the audience. And essentially when you do that, this is what you're doing. You're saying, this is what's happening. Oh, wait, I'll show you. And then you go into the scene. And the narrator allowed that kind of presentational thing. That means that now everything else on stage is less literal. What we had for the room in which he met with the people around the table was just 2 4x8s to make an 8x8 square, up about 3.5 feet off the ground, with a long table, furniture made up like a Victorian room. A little ladder went down from that to a floor level, and then ramps went from low, high to a very high. That was all the world in which he went, which was full of artificial flowers.
So his bedroom from which he goes on his journey is just off the ground, and there's just a little representation of it?
No, he wasn't. Actually, this was the room where they ate and met and talked about things, and he would go down the stairs, and there was one small platform down there on which nothing sat but the time machine. And so he would tell them, and they didn't believe him, and he would essentially go down into his room and get in the time machine, and then he would go there, and then there'd be a lighting change into this other world, and he would step out into the other world. Downstage from that, about 3 to 5 feet, I don't remember exactly, was the first of the ramps. And the ramps went across, going higher, and then going higher here.
Yeah.
And then from this top ramp, there was a ladder all the way down. He goes to this foreign time. There are 2 races of people, the Eloi and the Morlocks. The Morlocks live under the earth. He finds out what they do is they keep the Eloi fat and happy and eat them. And so there's a thing where he goes down into the Morlock world to try to find out what's going on there. And of course we had to have that thing. So from the top of that, we had a ladder down to play those scenes.
Yeah.
So forth. But this little square room up here had flats behind it to give a sense of a Victorian room, and was painted a certain color, and were even crown molded with wood and all kinds of stuff, and had Victorian paintings hanging in it. In that set of circumstances, I have to have 2 worlds totally different from each other. And so when the lighting was on up here in his world where he's talking to the men of his time, they're all dressed in Victorian-like costumes. And they're up here. Nothing else on the set is lit at all. And it's amber lit and has that old sense like an old photograph all that's going on up there. Well, when he came down and went into the time machine, only that was lit. Only the time machine. And then when he stepped out into the world, he stopped it, and now I found myself thousands of years in the future. Steps out, and all of that would be lit. That was brightly lit, daylight color. So those two worlds really had a difference from each other, and you didn't even look over there where the room was. And even though there were times when I left the men sitting in it, there wasn't a blackout where they could get out. They would be sitting up, and nobody looked at them.
But the lights went out on them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was totally in the dark.
What color was the light in the time machine? Amber as well?
No. It was colder. It was bluish. I wanted that to be lit to give a sense of this traveling through time is not a normal.
Right, sure, no. He only goes to one world, the future world. And that's where he finds.
Well, no, actually, as he's going through, he slows down and he can see the world. It goes way into the future where the sun is dying. It's huge red in the sky. There's no more animal life left. So it describes in the novel, and some of that we used. And while he's in the time machine, he also spoke about, he didn't speak directly to the audience.
Yeah.
He spoke as if, these are my thoughts now. It wasn't a soliloquy.
Yeah.
It was of somebody describing what he's seeing, almost to himself as he sees it.
So he's gone, he goes to a different time period.
But he doesn't stop and get out.
The only one he stops and gets out on
This where part of the world is underground, the other part, the Morlocks are more animal. But the Eloi are humanoid.
But is this meant to also be Earth?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
exact. The time machine doesn't move in space,
I
only
see.
in time.
Only in time.
So it's still London, but there's no London anymore. London is 10,000 years in the future.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is what I was talking about. You have a problem. How am I going to get the little time machine off the stage without the audience seeing it? I've got to make a physical.
Because it has to disappear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does the thing. He says, look, now I'll push it into the future. I'll never get it back. But I don't need the model anymore. I have the real one in the other room. And that I've already been in. So I'll show you what happens. And he pushes the little thing, and the novelist says, suddenly there was a wind swept through the room. How are you going to make it disappear?
Well, you could have a blackout.
No, you can't. Because everybody will know they only had that to make it disappear. It's got to disappear in front of their eyes.
Okay. But you want to go literal with it. You don't want it to be obsolete. You're not trying to go symbolic.
No. Because there's absolutely nothing like that in the rest of the play. And what they are, they're very 19th century real, you know.
So you have to literally go to magic. You have to go to the illusion, right? The same way that magicians make things disappear. Or by creating an illusion.
Right. And this is how you do that. The guy said, how are we going to get off the stage?
Glasses, mirrors, and
No.
smoke and mirrors.
He said, how are we going to get off the stage? I said, you're going to take it off and put it on the ground behind the table.
Put it on the what?
Behind the table.
Yeah.
But you're going to just lift it off. He said, everyone will see me. I said, nobody's going to see you. And this is why. When the narrator says, so the time traveler starts to move the lever, and it starts imperceptibly to vibrate. And then the air blows through the room. And then a candle was blown out. Well, we had a candle on stage on a wall sconce. And there was a little hole with a tube in the wall in the set. Nobody could see the hole. And I would go around and blow at the right moment, and it would blow the candle out. And that wouldn't have been enough, except when the narrator said, suddenly a wind blew through the room.
You have to get everybody to look at him. Create
No,
a diversion.
not at him, at the candle.
Yeah.
And everybody swirled their heads, and at that moment he was saying, and the candle blew out, and it blew out.
Oh, okay. So you have all the actors on the stage turn
Looking,
their head, look at the
and
camera.
all the ones in the room turning and look, as they would if something happened. While they're looking over there, the guy just took it off the stage. Okay. So I was there before the show after the show one night. And a man who was about 40, kind of diminutive, intelligent-looking man came up to me and says, "I've been here 3 times."
And he doesn't know how you make it disappear.
He said, "The second 2 times were because I wanted to see how you got that thing off the table."
And yet he still fell for the trick.
Couldn't help it.
Could not help it.
Because the part of him who wants to watch that really gets pulled into the story. So his conscious mind, which has that idea,
I'm going to just keep my eye on that thing this
makes
time.
no difference. Because when the story's working, it pulls you in.
And so each and every time he turns his head, looks at the candle, and this is it.
And he said, "I still didn't."
I still didn't see it, even after 3 times.
Yeah. And I said, "Look." And I told him what we did. I said, "Look, I just make everybody look over there. The audience looks over there. You can't help looking over there when you believe in what's happening already. Before that, you go with it." And I said, so when that was done, I just simply took it off. Because after that, when he said, after the candle blew, his next line is something like, "We all look back and it was gone." And so immediately they all look back and it is gone.
It is gone, yeah.
But nobody saw the guy reach up with his hand to do that.
So the director is responsible for the message getting down a lot to problem solving.
Yeah, because every play demands for you to make them believe certain things that an author has put in that he needs for his story that you're not going to believe. How are you going to believe that Hedda Gabler actually shoots herself? Obviously, she doesn't shoot herself.
But you want it to seem like it.
They've got to feel like it, not that they think they
Right.
saw it.
That sounds like quite the set for the time machine. The fact that, with the levels.
Right.
Levels. Because part of it's going, 10 feet off the ground? The highest part of the set or more?
No, about 7.5 probably. But when somebody's standing up and kneeling on a 7, well, you couldn't stand up actually because the ceilings in the room weren't that high. There must have been 12 feet. So when he got to the top, you couldn't stand there. You had to kneel. It was the highest thing in the room, though. Highest thing on the stage. And there was enough for about 5 rungs of ladder to get down to the actual stage floor. And the stage floor, by the way, we covered with dirt, potting soil.
When he would go down to the beneath the earth scene, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that he would come down in there, and then when they came back up, they'd have dirt on their shoes.
The top levels where the fatted people would be?
Yeah.
Was there a lot of action? You had to fit a lot of action?
No. Because the whole area on the ramps was where those people would be.
Okay, yeah.
And if they came through the dirt area, which sometimes they did, it wasn't representing at that point the depths down the ladder.
They were just getting to where they needed to be.
Exactly.
They were crossing the stage.
Right.
Did you do anything to create the weight that they were fatted and that they,
it wasn't really like that. They were actually slim. What I meant by fatted was that they were provided with food by the Morlocks.
Oh, I see.
So,
yeah.
But they weren't.
They weren't literally.
No,
Yeah.
they were more like they were slim and willowy and not muscled because they didn't have to do anything. All they did was get up and sit in the park and swim, and they would find food, which they would do eat. And they ate from the trees and all of that kind of stuff. It's like a little bit of an Eden. Part of the point of that is if you don't have struggle in life, you can't live. You can only be fatted by somebody else to live. You have to have struggle in life, really. Well, just to really be something.
Yeah.
If you don't have anything to do, if you lay in bed all day, you lose your muscle.
Right, sure.
And so you can't comb your hair later.
Right. You have nothing to.
Right. And so they're kind of helpless, kind of giddy, kind of simplistic minded. And he falls in love with this one of them named Weena, who she's swimming and she gets caught in a rapid current and she's about to drown and nobody helps her. It's not because they dislike her or anything else like that. They're too busy, smelling the ambrosia and everything else. And he sees her and he helps her and then falls in love with her, which is another part of the story. And when at one point he's trying to get away, the Morlocks have yanked his time machine inside this little building, so it actually has been moved about 6 feet. It was on the outside of the door, now it's right on the inside. They can't get through the doors, so he has to find ways to get it, so all of this happens. Well, the Morlocks get Weena, and he comes back and tells the whole story. And of course the people don't believe him. What is this guy crazy? And everything else like that. And then he says, come back next week, and I'll bring you proof of what I said. And what he wants to do is go back right before the Morlocks get her and save her and bring her back with him. But when he goes, he can only bring back these flowers from this other time, which are a genus that nobody knows.
He's not able to bring her back.
No. And he goes back.
Is there some plot development, or that the time machine won't hold two people?
No. He goes back and he never returns. He brings back the flowers actually when he's telling the story. But he goes back to rescue Rita, and he never returns. And that's how the end of the novel is. Human life is what it is. We go through struggle. We have to deal with the horrors of life. Life is grand opera, but it hurts. But even in that, there is human behavior which is civilized, beneficial, and to be cherished. And the central element of those things is love, which means not what I get from you, but what I can provide.
Right.
Which is very touching to me now.
Yeah, it's very touching.
Oh, and by the way, when I use examples of things I've done, the point of that is not, Harv was good and he was right and he did this and so it worked. No, it's just these are certain ways that problem was attacked successfully.